benefit of others. Paul said, I was made a minister and given this dispensation for you. Paul said, I'm going to rejoice in my suffering and what's going on in my body and the afflictions that I'm going through, because I realize that all that I'm doing is for the benefit of you. It's for the benefit of others. Church, we can't finish the work of this ministry, and we won't finish our own work unless we realize that it's for the benefit of somebody else. It's for the benefit of others. I want to remind us, thirdly, that when God gives us a dispensation, it is for a divine purpose. When God gives us a dispensation, it's for a divine purpose. That's why we ought to be willing to sacrifice. That's why we know it's for the benefit of others. A divine purpose is not your purpose. It's his purpose. And when we talk about God giving us a dispensation for a divine purpose, listen to me. God has heard the cry of his people. God has heard the cry of his people. While we are discounting and neglecting an entire generation, God has heard their cry. And I don't want you to confuse how people are living, how people are acting, and what people are doing with whether or not they have cried out to a holy God. And I believe that there is a generation of people who are crying out to God. They're every race, they're every class, they're every color, they're every culture, and they're in every country around the world. There are young adults who are crying out to God. They may be getting high on Monday, but even while they're getting high, they're crying out to God. They may be laying in strange beds, but while they're in those beds, they're crying out to God. They may be doing all sorts of illicit things, but while they're doing them, they're crying out to God. They may be behind jail bars, looking hard on the outside, but on the inside, when the cell closes and the lights go out for the night, they're crying out to God. They may be dropped out of school, and you might think that they're giving up on life, but in the still moments of their life, they're crying out to God. Some of them are on college campuses, and they know everything there is to know about chemistry and engineering and science, and things may look good on the outside, and it may look like they're on their way, but when they get in the dorm room, they're crying out to God. There are those who are in the party, they're in the club, they may look like the life of the party, but in a quiet moment, they're crying out to God. It may look like they're buried in their phone and that nothing else matters other than who they're talking with or tweeting with or chatting with or pictures that they're taking, but on the inside, when they look at that selfie, they're crying out to God. Church, I believe that there's a generation. We're looking at what they're doing or where they are. Some of them are married. May look good on the outside, but on the inside, they're crying out to God. Some of them got good jobs, but on the inside, they're crying out to God. Some of them got all the latest fashion, got $200 tennis shoes and $100 jeans and $90 shirt, but on the inside, they're crying out to God. God did not give us this assignment because there's nobody who wants to hear. God has given us this assignment because he's heard the cry. Listen, I'm trying to get you to hear what God has already heard. God did not give us this assignment because there's a generation who doesn't want him. God has given us this assignment because there is a generation that does want him. They're looking for him. They're searching for him. They're seeking him that they might find him. They're looking for his children. They're looking for examples. They're looking for a witness. They're looking for the truth. They're looking for somebody who's not fake, who's not a hypocrite, who's not phony, who's not playing church, who's not just showing up and lifting up holy hands with an evil heart. They're looking for somebody who can accurately represent who God is. They are crying out, God, is there anybody who really knows you? Is there anybody who's not a hypocrite? Is there anybody who really loves me? Is there anybody who really will care about me? Is there any hope for my life? And listen, God has given us a divine purpose. And whenever there's a divine purpose, it's because God has heard his cry. Listen, God didn't hear you crying about them. God heard them crying out for him. Because in most cases, we weren't crying for them. They were crying for him.